Welcome to the Humans of Hospitality podcast with me, Mark Cribb. Now, this is the week where we had official data showing that as a country, we unsurprisingly had a historic drop in GDP, and that 25% of that drop was due to the hospitality sector alone. Yet still, we have no confirmation on when bars and restaurants will be allowed to reopen, albeit most of us are working towards the 4th of July anyway. But still, for many people, being able to open does not mean that it makes actual financial sense to open, particularly with the debate around 1 metre and 2 metre distancing. But most people I speak to certainly want to be able to make the decisions themselves rather than rely on government orders. And without confirmation, it is incredibly hard to give teams certainty of a return date, to give suppliers confirmation of delivery dates, and to generally work through the complexities of getting hundreds of moving parts in a venue up and running. We wait in anticipation. But despite the chaos, this week's guest is a true inspiration of hospitality. Sally Beck is the General Manager of the Royal Lancaster Hotel in London. And Sally is also the 2019 Hotelier of the Year, joining some legendary predecessors of the award. I saw Sally talk at a caterer show a year or so ago and have been wanting to have a more in-depth conversation ever since. And we have a pretty wide-ranging conversation, all the way from chickens to my relief that Sally was not actually born in a pub, to how a £40 million refurbishment actually turned into an £85 million refurbishment, as well as Sally's desire to create the happiest hotel in London and what that actually means. Now, Sally is a very principled person when it comes to the integrity of our industry and how we should be treating apprenticeships and, in fact, all members of our teams. Sally is much more about the team and asking for opinions rather than demanding results. And with consecutive years in the Times Employer of Choice Awards, her approach is paying huge dividends, both culturally and financially. Well, it was before the pandemic hit, at least, and we also chat on its impact, complexities, and Sally's thoughts on how and when to reopen, as well as some exceptionally creative thoughts on how to come out trading on the other side. Sally's CV is awesome, and she deserves her reputation as one of the best in class. I'm confident you're going to enjoy this conversation and learn a few nuggets of wisdom on the way. And for Sally's Hoteliers Charter that we chat about in the show, please do check out the Patreon page where you can also support the podcast, as well as I financially, as well as signing up for our weekly newsletter, keeping you informed of our latest updates. Just go to humansofhospitality.co.uk/donate. Enjoy the show. Sally Beck from the Royal Lancaster, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. Hugely appreciated. Can I just ask, where in the world are you, Sally? Are you at home at the moment?
Yeah, I'm sat in a little place called Skittle Green, which is a hamlet of Bledlow in Buckinghamshire near Prince's Risborough.
Wow, that sounds idyllic. Is that your home, is it?
Yeah, it is. It's actually lovely. We've only got 3 chickens now. We did have 10, but the fox got a few. It's a lovely spot. So, I'm very blessed to be here.
We can't start the podcast with such devastating news about the chickens, Sally. Is this recently? Or?
It was about a week, 10 days ago. We've got, I suppose this time of year, you've got hungry foxes. And we thought that with us being at home, chickens in the garden, and a dog who's quite chicken friendly, would be fine. But no, fox got 6. So, yeah.
I've been thinking of getting some for my garden. Funny, I think that's the joy of lockdown is I've been sorting my garden out, and that's put me off though. I can't cope with the emotional trauma.
We did used to name them, but the fox over the years has had about 40, so we're over that now. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, very wise. I take it then have you been working from home since the pandemic, or do you still go into the hotel?
I go in probably once every week or every 10 days. I was in actually yesterday to see the on-site team, check the security measures. Recently, I've been looking at ways to manage the social distancing in certain areas of the hotel. So I go in every week or so. But other than that, I've been here since the 23rd of March.
And how weird is it being in the Royal Lancaster at the moment? How many people have you got working there?
I've got about 16, which sounds like a hell of a lot. Originally, it was just 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And I've got it into two teams, Team A and Team B on security, doing 12-hour shifts. Um, but I've actually now added my engineering team because my engineering team are doing PPM, flushing, maintenance, etc., while the hotel's empty. But I have to. It is weird going in, but the team have become a real tight little knit family. We've got table tennis set up in the lobby. I've got a badminton set up in one of the ballrooms, and there's a good vibe, a good team spirit. So yeah,
That's
it's
good. I just think that these buildings normally have such an incredible personality because they never rest, really, do they? There's always hotels are unique, I guess, in the fact they're in operation, 24/7, unlike office blocks. So it's an odd feeling, I think, when you see a building like that resting, almost in hibernation, because they normally have so much energy.
Yeah, it is. It is funny. There's definitely a dormant feeling just waiting, and it's also quite weird. I don't know whether you know the Royal Lancaster well. We've got this big sort of window that's open up to the forecourt. Lot, our night manager, runs an 8 a.m. yoga session in there. So if anyone's walking past, they can actually see like 10 unfit team members bending and stretching in the front lobby. So those will be things that we'll remember and smile once we get back to normality, whatever the new normal is, how our lobby changed.
Yeah,
But,
great. Well, like you say, we're creating memories at the very least. So, for people that don't know the Royal Lancaster, then I mean, it's a beast, isn't it? Over 400 rooms, but also a lot of events and banqueting space. Can you just give us a little bit of a description?
yeah, 411 rooms. We've got 19 floors. We're a big tower block that goes up, and then we sort of sit on a podium where we've got two big ballrooms, 1,000 in one, 800 in another, and about 11, 12 different meeting rooms and space. We've got 5 kitchens, Nipa Thai, a wonderful Thai restaurant, island restaurant, pastry, and then event kitchens, and then our first floor park restaurant and bar. So we are a big beast.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
and the restaurant's open to the public as well. They're not just for the hotel guests.
yeah, they're. I mean, obviously, in the normal world, they're open to everybody. Right now, they're closed for everybody. But yes, in the normal world, we have a good, loyal clientele, particularly for our Thai restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You are the 2019 Hotelier of the Year, renowned for being passionate about employment of people. So we're going to chat today about your thoughts and the hotel chart, and we'll come to the pandemic a little bit as well. But I just want to touch on your background. I'm based down in Bournemouth on the south coast, and I understand you know it well. Is this where I was going to say your career actually started way before that? Is it true you were born in a pub?
Yeah, I was born in a place called the Red Lion in Wells, which is in Greenore, actually, near Wells. And I was there for 18 months, and then we moved to the Monk's Arms at Canby Corner in Lincolnshire, and then the Berkeley and Scunthorpe pubs, hotels, small amount of bedrooms, and eventually I did my first training down at the Dormy in Ferndown, so near your neck of the woods. I was a trainee manager for a couple of years there, and then I went travelling for a couple of years, and then came back and worked with Clipper Hotels down the southeast, yeah, and then eventually came to London and diversified into sales and marketing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice. And sorry to go back, but I've just got to ask: when you say born in a pub, is that literally born in a pub, or were you born in a hospital but lived in a pub?
yeah, I was born in a hospital but lived in a pub.
Okay,
I
just
did
checking.
live,
I thought that really was destiny. If you were sort
yeah,
of, was that deliberate? It's like to carve out your niche for the industry. But okay, I'm quite relieved. To be fair, I had images of you sort of like in some sort of emergency birth on a bar, which would be wrong. So did you move to London specifically then with a desire to get into one of the greatest sort of hospitality capitals of the world, or what brought you to London?
I think initially I was scared of London. I just felt it was too big for me. But there wasn't, I think eventually, if you do want to have a career in hotels, that's where the biggest and the best hotels are and the most vibrant hotel scene is. So, yeah, I think London was ended up that destiny for me. And I started work at the Great Western Royal, which is now the Hilton Paddington, working for Mrs. Battier. And I was there for 18 months, which is very unusual. Normally people are about 3 or 4 months. But anyway, 18 months I was there before I then moved across to the Conrad in Chelsea Harbour, which is my first five-star hotel. And then I moved Royal Garden, did the reopening there. And then I started at the Landmark in January 2001. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
and then
It's an impressive CV. I know you're master in holders and fellowship of the Institute of Hospitality. You've achieved a phenomenal amount. So congratulations. How long have you been at the Royal Lancaster, and do you remember when you first walked into that building?
yeah, I actually started working at the Royal Lancaster in November 2012. But my bosses, I had Francis Green at the Landmark, and then it was Stephen Kiak-Lane at the Royal Lancaster, and Brian Cladnick, who's the MD, who heads all the three hotels that we have in London. They wanted me to come out of sales and marketing, go back into operations and become hotel manager at the Royal Lancaster, which was quite a shift from a director of sales and marketing at the Landmark. That's quite a shift. So that was a little bit scary. And I remember walking in, and my husband and I, it was all a bit secret at the time, went and spent a night at the Royal Lanc. And the rooms were tired and very small compared to the Landmark's rooms. And I remember thinking, God, blimey. I knew we were going to spend about 40 million on the hotel then and shift it from a 4-star to a 5-star. And I thought, God, this is going to be an absolute feat. I don't know how they're going to manage that. Anyway, I took the job, took the leap of faith. And then we did the renovations, and it wasn't 40 million, it was 85 million. And we did do it. I was meant to be working for Stephen for a couple of years. But in actual fact, I started November 2012, beginning of, and he handed his notice in end of November 2012. So I actually only had 3 months with him before I took on acting general manager. So my first position, big beast of a hotel, and starting a project that just grew and grew. So yeah, I had 24 hours of panic, and then got my head down and thought, right, okay, calm down, take a deep breath, and it's not rocket science, you'll do it. And we did. So yeah.
Yeah, amazing. I'm somewhat relieved to hear that your budget started at 40 million and ended up at 85, because every refurbishment I've ever done of anything has pretty much come out at double what I initially estimated. So was that because you decided to evolve, I suppose, and do more, or did it just go over budget? Because that's a big chunk, isn't it?
Well, I think what originally there was a need to redo the hotel, like over 50 years old. So it was a beautiful sort of knackered old lady. And the hotel needed new air conditioning, new plumbing, new electrics, just the whole infrastructure really. So that was the first 10 million. And then we needed to connect all that new kit to the bedrooms. And so that took up the other 30 million. So that made the 40 million. But I said to the owner, you never get the return on investment unless you do the lobby and the public areas. Otherwise, you're going to have beautiful bedrooms, but you still look like you're walking into a 70s hotel. And that was another chunk of money. So it did grow, but it grew properly. And our owner invested everything really well for the next 50 years. So it grew, but it wasn't like a monster overspend. It was actually just, you just can't do part of it. You've just got to do all of it and do it properly.
That investment, I was going to say, in sort of plumbing and electrical and all that kind of back of house stuff you don't see is heartbreaking because it's so essential. But yeah, it's very hard to sort of justify a return on investment because it's the shiny new things that seem to attract the customers, isn't it? But if you don't get that right, yeah, none of it works. So,
Yeah.
Nice to know it's been done properly. And it's an independent hotel, so this was all this money was raised privately in essence.
Yeah, one owner, one family, and who invests for the long term. And so I've worked with him since I started at the Landmark in January 2001. He unfortunately passed away in February of this year, which was just gutting for all of us. But his son, Tung, who I've known all the time since I've known Kunjataporn has been geared and groomed to sort of continue the legacy. And his elder brother Tong, the two of them have taken the helm. And it's just been awful to have Kunjataporn's legacy close with this pandemic. But the two young gentlemen are continuing his legacy of caring about staff, caring about the long-term benefits of our hotels, and doing it properly. So I feel there's been a smooth transition, even though it's been heartbreaking.
Yeah, well, that it's good and unusual, I think, to get that sort of smooth transition. All too often, a shock like that means things go on the market and a great deal of upheaval. So, nice to know that it's got some sort of longevity, I guess. So, impact-wise, then you spent the 85 million. When did the refurbishment finish?
We reopened as the Royal. Well, we never closed. So Royal Lancaster we put on the front door in 2017, and then we still have quite a bit of snagging and all sorts of other rubbish to get through for 18. But 19 was our first full year of full trading with no builders, and I have to say we were doing a cracking job. We'd shifted from 270 in TripAdvisor up to in the 30s, which is no mean feat, and taking business from some of the top 5-star hotels in London in the events and conference side, and making our mark in the high-end leisure and becoming the 5-star hotel that we deserve to be. And I kept the same team, and everything was going great guns. So we practically finished towards the back end of 18, and then had a full. Say this was our first full year of trading. So.
Okay, and not just as a result, clearly of the investment as the turnaround of the hotels. You achieving Hotelier of the Year certainly raised your profile, and you got a lot of publicity. But you also sort of publicly stated that you wanted to create, was it the happiest hotel in London? So lots of other things have had an impact. What did you mean by that as the happiest hotel in London?
Listen, I've been in hotels all my life. And I think we're a really happy industry, but it's not necessarily the case that it's carried right the way through as to how you care for your staff. But I believe if my team are happy, our guests feel it. And that happiness, it can sound trite, and I don't mean it to sound trite. Happiness to me means that you're heard, you're listened to, that you're developed, you're trained, you're part of the solution. That you have a sense of well-being. I'm not responsible for my team's happiness, but I'm responsible for creating a culture where happiness can thrive. I won't have bullying. There's no fear in the hotel. There's no fear in any meetings. Everyone's got a brain. It's not just mine. I expect them all to work. All this gives a sense of well-being. And if you've got a sense of well-being, then you can feel happy. I want people to come into work feeling, right, what can I do today? I want to be amazing. I want to be brilliant. I want to do stuff. And it's when things go wrong that you know that if you've got a good culture, you work out how to fix it. You don't have a blame culture. And all of this stuff builds this happiness. And so it's that I want to be the happiest hotel in London can sound really naff and sweet. And I don't want it to. I believe it hits money on the bottom line. I think happy people stay. Happy people, it's contagious. And that happiness means they feel safe, they're trusted, they're valued, they're cared for, which means they can do stuff. They're part of the solution. So if you've got something that goes wrong, you want to fix it as opposed to say, well, it's not my fault, I don't care. So it's all part of that. That means that you're the happiest hotel and people want to give the guests that happy feeling. And I think it is contagious.
I think you're right. Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic. We run it's called the Hug Club, our loyalty scheme for our customers. Happy hugs. I think it's all what we stand for as an industry, basically. And it's working in the fact that you've been in the top 100 of the Sunday Times best companies to work for a number of years in a row. Is that right?
Yeah. You know what? It was probably one of my best accolades, I think, that I've ever had. I wanted to get into it because I I think it's not the be all and end all, but it's a way of monitoring whether your team are engaged and truly happy. And the first time we did the questionnaire, we got absolutely bloody nowhere. It was I think we got one rosette or something, and we then took that away for 2 years and just worked on all sorts of stuff. And then went again, and we were in the midst of, we'd got 300 or 400 builders. The place was in turmoil, and we're keeping it open, and lifts were out and all sorts. It was, just a really hard time for the whole team. Went into the survey again and got in, and I remember being absolutely blown away, and actually being in tears with thinking, Christ, we're doing something right here. Because the product was so hard to deal with and work with, but the team were engaged. All of that listening, being involved, caring, had all made huge input to the culture. And then we've gone on. We got in at number 80, and we've just carried on now, and now we're at 38. I want to be.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm pleased. It was a really good thing.
Yeah, I mean, because traditionally, and we'll talk about this, but we have a reputation as an industry, I suppose, as being, yes, great fun and great energy, and it's not particularly academic, but we also have a reputation for kind of poor hours and too many hours, and working at antisocial times. So to get your team engaged enough where they're happy to sort of to shout and rave about working weekends and working Friday and Saturday nights and working a lot is particularly impressive. Let alone doing it when the place is a building site. What were the biggest changes from when you went in the first time? You said there was a few things you did over those 2 years. Where did you see the biggest change?
I probably think the service charge. When I came in, you've got to do a lot of things when you come in. Anyway, I started looking at the service charge and realised that it was very unfair, and it wasn't transparent. Some chefs were in it, some chefs weren't. Managers were in on unlimited hours and could basically screw their teams by putting themselves on for as many as they liked. There was a point system. If you got on well and you were the favourite, you got more points, which means you got more service charge. It was all over the place. So I stripped it back. I consulted with the team. It's transparent. Managers are capped at 50 hours. Frontline and supervisors and team leaders, etc., and everyone else is uncapped. Ours is applicable. It's 1 point for absolutely everybody, and that's it. And I think that breathed a whole load of trust into the team. You can't make everyone happy, but you can make it fair and transparent for everybody. And it was this is fair and this is transparent and that's how it is, and that went in. So that was it took a while to consult, but that was a big start. I would say then also it's being approachable and being around. I found when I first started, the title general manager was probably the most scary thing known to man, and people didn't want to sit near me in the canteen. They'd freak if I came and sat with them. Anyway, eventually they worked out that it's just Sally. And I open all inductions. I see all team members before they're taken on. I don't know. I broke down a lot of hierarchical barriers. I have an inverted hierarchy. I sit at the bottom of the triangle and I support the team. And that means that my job is to make sure the frontline team have got whatever they need because they see the guests. And that breaks down this middle bit of hierarchy. The hardest thing I find is if a new manager comes into our hotel and thinks, right, now's my time to tell everyone what I want. I don't tell people what I want. I ask people what we think we should do and how we do it. So I can't have a manager that comes in because I'm the manager, it's my way, this is how it is. That doesn't work at the Royal Lancaster. So if you can break all that down, you can breathe fresh air right through your organisation and you can have trust. And I think from any relationship, if you haven't got trust, you've not got anything. So I think if you've got trust and transparency, then world's your oyster. You can keep going.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think there's always an irony in hospitality that, we spend all of our time looking after the customers, and, whether it's anniversaries, birthdays, holidays, whatever they're visiting for, and that culture hasn't necessarily always existed back of house. And I think fundamentally, if you work in hospitality, and I think it's definitely changed and we've got much better at it, but it's a reflex, I think, wanting to look after human beings. And if you're looking after your customers, you should absolutely look after your team. And when I was reading earlier, actually, it made me smile. I saw a quote, and I can't remember where I saw it. Was reading about you earlier, and it was a quote from one of your team, and it said, "This is the first place I've worked where the staff don't run away when they see the general manager or hotel manager approaching. We are appreciated for what we do." And I think that's fundamental. How many people do you employ?
I've got about 350 in terms of full-time equivalents, and I've probably got about another 100 casual agency because of the events business. So usually I top out about 465.
Okay, so it's a decent number. Yeah, decent number to manage and motivate. So this is one of the. Is this where the Hoteliers Charter? Is this your initiative? And did this come about predominantly from a sort of employment and culture perspective? Or?
Yeah, it did, and it's a funny way. I mean, basically, I was so chuffed to be chosen as the Hotelier of the Year for 2019, and when you get picked, you've got to do this acceptance speech, and I was thinking, God, you get the whole doyens of the industry there, and I'm thinking, okay. And anyway, I did a bit of research, and the Master Inn Holders, or the Hotelier of the Year award, has been going for 37 years. And I was just thinking about, what's changed and what's improved and all that sort of stuff. And it came to me that actually our reputation in the industry hasn't improved in that time. And what brought it home to me is I've got 2 daughters, and my eldest is actually an apprentice with Red Carnation, but she actually turns 18 tomorrow. But when she was 15, she was going to do work experience, and she was going to come and do it at the Royal Lancaster. And there was a friend of hers that at her school that wanted to come. And I said, yeah, that's great. Why don't you just ask her mum, and we can sort it out. We'll do 5 days and work around the departments, etc. And this mother, so this is a 40-odd-year-old woman in Buckinghamshire, said, well, why would my daughter want to be a servant? And I thought, oh my God, are we still there, And then I thought about why our reputation is like that. And I'm probably going to be controversial, but anyway, Gordon Ramsay, I'm not his best fan. I'm sure he's an amazing chef, but he's made his money in TV by bullying and shouting at young people, young chefs. And that reputation persists in the kitchens, that bullying and shouting is acceptable. And then, again, I'm sorry for being controversial, but Michel Roux Jr., and obviously the Roux family name, have done amazing stuff for our industry. But he got caught not paying his team properly at the Gavroche and topping up with service charge. Now, that's bad enough, but then he went on national TV and said that everybody does it. You can't run a restaurant in London without doing it. And no one in our industry stood up and said, that's not right. I tweeted out, he's got 2 million on his followers. I tweeted out, shame on you. I can run a restaurant without ripping off my staff. I didn't get an answer, but it doesn't matter. But those people, that behaviour leaves an impression that this is not an industry that we should be joining. These are long hours, they get ripped off, their money's not their own, the leaders in the industry think this is okay. And I felt that we need to do more. And I believe that hoteliers do more. And the reason it's a Hotelier Charter and not a hospitality charter is because right now I think we've got a lot of work to do to improve the reputation of our industry. And I believe hoteliers, because we've got the profit levels of bedrooms that help our business mix, we do it better. Apprentices that we have can work across a whole load of different disciplines, and then choose to go into food and beverage. And if I think hoteliers out of the whole of hospitality industry should be held up as leaders of people development and management. And I know that's controversial, and I know there are some cracking restaurants out there that do it properly, but generally hotels do it properly, broader and a bit deeper. So the Hoteliers Charter got born from when I did my acceptance speech in November last year. And then I sat with the West London Hotel Managers, an association that I'm a part of. The following day for lunch was our monthly meeting, and just said we'd need to do more. And we just decided that a Hoteliers Charter might be the thing. And we talk about it. There's 10 points that people need to do as members. And that's how it got born.
Okay, yeah, good. And what are the key points on that, without necessarily reading out all 10? But what's the sort of either the most important or the general gist?
Well, I think that team members can be developed. I think you come into our industry, and you can start as a food waiter or a room attendant, but you can be developed right the way through to a general manager very, very easily. And I think, I've got 30 apprentices at the Royal Lancaster, and they've generally, all of them have got promoted, and they stay with. I think starting on low pay. I paid just over the national minimum wage, only about 30p, 40p. So it's not a stink load more. But the team that start on national minimum wage or a little bit over that, they're not on it for long. We promote quickly, and I think that's endemic across our industry. So that's part in there. Employee assist programs, looking after team members that struggle. There's a huge amount of pressure in our industry, and certain sectors, struggle with alcoholism, debt, etc. And I think having an opportunity to support your teams through an employee assist program like Hospitality Action have, etc. Having clear and transparent service charge, etc. So there's key things in there that I think are important. Being a diversity ambassador. The other thing, I've had 2 children. I've had flexi working in our industry, and I think we also forget hotels run 24/7, which means we can have. There's a shift pattern for anybody in our industry if you're in hotels. So you can do the working mums, you can do the working dads. That work-life balance can happen because there's shift patterns that are available for all. So those are sort of things that I think should be shouted about and advocated across the UK.
Yeah, I think they look great, and I'll put them in the show notes for people who want to read the full 10 points. I'll pop them up on the website that accompanies this. But what's the uptake then? You're basically encouraging the hotel industry to sign up to this on a sort of a hotel by hotel basis. How is it being rolled out, and how have people been responding?
Well, in actual fact, we were due to launch it in April, and obviously the pandemic came across, so we've just mothballed it all, really. So it's prior to mothballing it. Pride of Britain was signing up. There's the Northern Hoteliers Association, which is run by Adrian Ellis. There's 200 hoteliers in that association. The commitment was fully for all those 200. The West London Hotel Managers Association, a criteria of membership for that 30, 40 member hotel association. If you haven't signed up to the charter, you can't join. So there was a huge amount of commitment to the charter, which was cracking. But I've since mothballed it just because it's not the right time at the moment. And I'm connecting it with UK Hospitality, who are a UK-wide, obviously, really important association that's doing us a cracking job right now. Institute of Hospitality, Peter Ducker has also come on board, very supportive as an educator for young people. And the Master Inn holders have also been massively supportive right the way through. So my goal is that the Charter sort of sits with the Institute, the UK Hospitality Association, and also we link up all the individual associations across the UK, and we create a voice of good behaviour, good business practice, good employee engagement, and that can be across the whole of the UK, linking in with the educators, the associations, Master Inn holders, and then the glue in the middle is the Hoteliers Charter as to how to behave. So the website's being built at the moment, and then we'll launch. But I think because of the big pressing thing at the moment, obviously, is how to come out of COVID. I tend to think we'll probably do the launch, I would say, next year, maybe even March, April next year. So I'll have a board meeting in the next couple of weeks, and we'll set up what the launch criteria is. But it's alive and kicking. It's as relevant now, probably even more relevant now than it was before. But I think our industry will survive this. But how we care for our teams, how we care for our staff is going to be paramount as to how well we succeed.
Yeah, well, that's a fantastic legacy, though, of your sort of hotelier of the year, and I guess with that kind of support of all of those key industry professionals behind it, I'm sure it will be taken up. This idea, then, because I share your sort of concerns, I suppose, on the history of the industry. I've been in the sector for 20 years. I do feel that it is changing and changing at quite a pace, particularly I think the kitchen culture. I think we've still got challenges around working hours and around pay, without a doubt, and obviously some kitchens, but it feels like it's changing. Do you think that change is being led by the companies, or actually do you think that employees, it's been challenging, increasingly challenging, I suppose, over the last 5 or 6 years to get people to come into the industry? Do you think people now, younger people, just expect to be managed in a different way? They have different requirements from their employment, and who's leading this change?
I think it's a combination. I think it's a generational thing. Certainly the younger generations, the millennials and the I generation, no way are they going to do all the rubbish that we all did. 12-hour, 15-hour days are not the norm in their world, and a work-life balance is expected, not something that's in the nirvana. So I think generationally that's changing, which is really important. So I think that's happening there, and I think there are cracking employers out there who themselves maybe didn't see their families when they wanted to, and didn't have that balance, and make sure that it's happening. So I think it's happening at both ends of the employment sector, age brackets, which I think is a really great thing. And I think you are right, it is improving, but that's because we're in it and we can see it. My interest is this lady in Buckinghamshire who wouldn't let her daughter do work experience at our hotel because why would you want to be a servant? How do we get to her? How do we get to those parents to say, do you know what? I'd love my child to be in the hospitality industry, as opposed to using it as a stopgap. And that includes schools and educators. I've watched both my daughters go through their options. Not once as an educator said, do you know what, you'd be cracking in hospitality. It's still not seen as a profession that you want your daughter or son to go into. You'd still rather they did something else in, I don't know, pharmaceutical or a finance or something like that. You don't think, oh yeah, you've got a cracking personality, you could go far in hospitality. They still see it as a oh, you can top up some money, go work in the bar, it's just pocket money, it's not a career. We still have a hell of a lot to do.
We do, yeah. I don't know how you fix that. As a parent, I'm sort of laughing partly as well because most of my team have probably got more guitars and crayons than they've got sort of academia, and I think it's almost the parents' wish is almost always that you get a sort of solid academic background, and the thought of encouraging people into hospitality. You and I will love it for the reasons that you can progress really fast, and it's all about personality. And for me, the key point of education should be around teaching children to be good citizens. And if you can look people in the eye and you can smile and you communicate, you'd figure whatever industry you go into anywhere in the world, you'll be well placed. But yeah, how do you? Parents always want their kids, maybe at least for the first years, to be doctors and nurses and professionals, and then they realise actually, my son's a bit of a hippie and likes playing the drums, and my daughter's more likely to become I don't know, dancing on a stage in Ibiza, I think. So yeah, she's probably destined for a career in hospitality. But it's definitely a challenge. I don't know how we fix that in the parents' eyes, apart from, I suppose it's going to be incremental progress over a period of time, I suppose.
Yeah, I think if they hear good stories, I didn't go to uni, and I'm running one of the best hotels in London. And my sister's in hospitality. She looks after cruise lines and stuff. I mean, the opportunity to travel, see some amazing places. You carry your work with you. It's who you are. It's what you are. It is just amazing. I've had some cracking experiences, but we don't talk about that. It never gets out there into the public arena. All that gets out there is long hours and low pay. And all the glorious stories of all the amazing stuff that you've done, we've seen, we've experienced, just somehow gets buried somewhere, and that's what we've got to change. I've had cracking the Cricket World Cup, the football, the UEFA '96. We're headquarters again for 2020. Or 2021 as it's going to be now. I've travelled the world. I've stayed in the most amazing hotels. I've been part of cracking campaigns, the low-cost campaign for the Olympics coming to London. If it wasn't for the hoteliers, that would have been a virtual bid, because there was nothing transient, there was nothing tangible in there. It was all hypothetical. But the hoteliers pulled that off. There's so much that you can do in our industry, and you look at all of the entrepreneurs that have come through the hotel industry. Robin Hudson, the Pig Hotels, Malmaison. Entrepreneurs can. Oh my God, it's such a vibrant, exciting industry. It doesn't get talked about in schools and colleges. If you've got an entrepreneurial spirit and you like people, you should be in hospitality, because Christ, it's right on the cutting edge of new trends, food trends, nutrition, drink trends, all of this stuff. But it's not talked about.
Yeah, I think the kids appreciate it. I go into schools and colleges and do talks sometimes, and I think we get. I guess people probably know the restaurants locally. One of them's on a beach, and people are certainly more excited to hear the entrepreneurial journey, I guess, of somebody in hospitality that maybe the accountant or the lawyer goes in. So it appeals to the kids, but it doesn't yet appeal to the parents. But I guess maybe over the generations it will change. I was chatting to Robert Walton yesterday from the Restaurant Association about his young chef, young waiter competition, and the sort of transformations that they've done to that in making it much more glitzy and online application process. But the whole event around it was just a lot less stuffy than probably it's been historically. So I guess there's plenty going on. I think one of the things that's come out of the pandemic, and I want to chat to you about that a little bit, is I guess we've seen a much greater appreciation for the NHS and clapping for carers, which has been fantastic. But I do think it's been a positive swing maybe in hospitality as well, in the fact that a lot of our industry, which is fundamentally crippled at the moment, has stepped up, and we've seen sort of high profile people feeding NHS workers. We've been recognised, I suppose, as a key service. I think people have recognised how much, it's not until it's taken away that you realise what a social species we are and how much we like bars and restaurants. Do you think that there is an opportunity at the moment to sort of come out of this pandemic with perhaps a better reputation as a sector?
Yeah, I do. I think you're absolutely right. I think there's been some cracking examples of how hospitality has gone beyond expectations, and for being a sector that's so been incredibly impacted negatively in terms of revenues and turnover, etc. I think we will come out of it much stronger, which is going to be great. I think that's an opportunity for us all to grasp and continue the good examples of workmanship. But I think we still got a long way to go. I think hospitality, depending on how the government look after us over the next few months, I already hear that the amount of increased homelessness is from the hospitality sector over the last couple of months. So I applaud the great stories, but there's an underlying worry that I have that our businesses will not be able to manage this, and our teams are going to be, caught and lost on the wayside for a time.
It feels like we're hurtling towards a deadline, and things are obviously very fluid and changing. But now that Rishi's come out and said from August, we'll be contributing towards the furlough scheme, and that's going to be incrementally growing. I think there was some disappointment and concern across the sector that there wasn't perhaps a sector-specific package. For a lot of us in tourism in the UK or in hospitality, we're a seasonal industry, and I think our biggest concern now is losing pretty much the entire summer, and then how do we get through this winter to next summer with our teams and all of that experience and all of that training intact when it looks like the government support is being withdrawn. What's your thoughts on the trajectory and what the government should be doing, and your concerns around?
I'm pathetically delighted that they've done what they've done so far. And I was somewhat gratified that even though it's been sort of tailored August, September, October, it's still there. And albeit as they've said they're going to stop the furloughing scheme from November onwards, I'm hopeful. I think the PM's question times yesterday, he alluded to sector-specific packages for hospitality. Let's hope that between now and before we get to the end of October, they outline something that can be that safety net for us, because with all the will in the world, and my company's a cracking company, and currently we're topping up to 100% all of our team, and have done and will do until July, and we're now discussing what that looks like till October. But with all the will in the world, we're not going to be able to turn a profit between November and April unless there's government support. So by not turning a profit, we haven't made any redundancies, but I know plenty of other businesses that already are on round 2 and round 3, and that's with furlough currently being in place. So, the margins for a lot of businesses are so tight, they can't contribute, and the social distancing levels at the moment are unsustainable for our businesses. So I'm hopeful. I am. My cup is always bloody half full. So I've not given up yet. I'm hopeful that the government and Rishi is going to come up with something that might stretch us through those first 6 months and take us through the winter. But yeah, it's not easy. But
no, it's not. Understand. I employ 100 people, and we've been looking at this in the last few days, and it's hard to imagine that we don't at the very least sort of cut down, particularly in the hotel. I've got a little hotel, but in the restaurants, we can potentially cut down to a 5-day week, and if we do that, it means we can run on one team. So normally open from 8 in the morning till 11 at night, save 7 days a week, means we need 2 or 3 teams. But if we cut down to one team, Wednesday to Sunday for key services, even that, knowing that it will probably be loss making throughout the winter. But we did a list of all of the team on a little spreadsheet yesterday, and it's heartbreaking to realise the quality of some of the people that we could potentially lose, and you just think, God, it's such a waste, because we know we'll need them next April, but it's not won't pay, it's can't pay. We just don't have reserves to get us to that stage. Even with a CBILS loan, there's a limit to the amount of debt you can get into. So I share that. I share the optimism and hope, although I've become increasingly concerned. I guess the other big one that's sort of looming very fast is the rent issue and the quarterly rent issues, maybe more so for the restaurant sector, or certainly some of the bigger hotel chains as well. And that's looking like a potential cliff to drop off as well. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we're really lucky. Our company's not overextended. We don't have any big demands from banks or shareholders. So we're in a somewhat unique situation, I suppose, when I look at most of the industry and my colleagues and friends that I've been talking to. I'm hoping that the government can just help with business rate advances, extra loans, and the people that are working between the banks and people like yourself and others are actually taking the longer term view. This is time. We need another 6 months at the end of October of support and help to get us through. And I think we just need to be as creative as possible. I'm now looking at changing all the contracts I've got for all of our team to enforce flexi working But, I mean, I was on a Zoom with most of the team, well, not most of them, but a chunk of them yesterday. Our lot will do whatever they can to help us through. What I need is a flexible workforce. I'm not going to touch a single agency or a single casual worker, unfortunately. So my heart goes out to them too. And if I only need 100 people out of my 300 and odd on furlough right now, then for when we reopen, I'm going to be floating those 100 and make it 300 and try and keep them with some money and going, because it's going to cost us on redundancies, and then I'm going to need them in 6 months. So it ends up as a negative in all places. I've asked them to save you money, be careful, take good expenditure advice, but just don't blow it all, because we're going to go into a hard place. But I'd rather have 300 working on a 3-day week than 100 working on 5, and not be able to keep them all. So I don't know. It's going to be a long haul, and we're going to. I'm offering them. If you want to go back to college, you want to take a sabbatical, I'll keep your job open in a year. If you've just not seen your family for 3 months because you've been in lockdown, go and have 3 months holiday with your family. Take unpaid. Come back in 6 months. I'll have your job for you. I'm looking at every single way I can. I've got a little list of team members that actually, do you know what? Capability-wise, is it now not time? Those that I've got some cracking people that are in their late 60s, early 70s that have worked with us for years. Is it time now that you actually take your pension? Because I've got other people now that probably need it more. I've got single working mums that, to throw them on the, out to redundancy now kills me. So, we'll be having some hard discussions and some creative thinking, and we will have to make some tough decisions. But I'm hopeful we can, if the government continue, there is talk about a lifeline per sector. Let's see.
Well, it's why I like having these conversations. It's refreshing to know, and the same with the feedback that I get. I think people appreciate that we're all looking at a similar thing. I was literally on a call before this one with my FD having exactly that conversation. I've got a team meeting at one of my restaurants tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And I was saying to him, look, the first stage of this, I think, has to be that sort of voluntary approach and saying, look, exactly what you were saying, who is willing to go down to a 2 or 3 day week for the winter, who has been thinking of studying that course at college or wants to go home for a couple of months and go abroad. And exactly that. The more people that will do it voluntarily. And to be fair, as we were coming into the pandemic and before the furlough scheme was announced, we did the same thing and said, right, what do you need? I'm not going to do a blanket 50%, 20% pay cut. You guys come back and tell me what you need to live on, and I will do my very best to try and find it. And I guess that's the wonderful thing about our sector is it is full of good human beings, and if you've got a good company culture, people will want to stay. And I guess there's going to be less places for people to go as well. What's your thoughts, sort of, drawing to a close, but what's your thoughts on coming out the other side of this as to the impact? Do you think a lot of people won't come through it? Do you think this is a 6 month, a 2 year issue? You will have given this some thought. How do you think we come out the other side?
I think we've got to be really creative. I think what the world that we closed in is not the world we're going to open in. And I think you need to find in this period of lull the time to think, and to think really well about what your business could look like, because it's all changed. Customer expectations have changed. Customer travel habits have changed or will be changing. So try to really think broadly, deeply, and creatively. I mean, we've literally, I'm totally bloody delighted, done a deal with our AV company, and we've put in a mixed reality a production studio. And I have to say, I'm bloody chuffed to bits about it. It means that I can do actual reality. So if I can only get an audience of 50 people as opposed to the 500, I'll have that. And then there's a virtual reality piece that can go out to the other 450 that can't come because of either social distancing or border controls, or they're too scared to come into London or whatever. And that partnership we've done with RAV, it's £500,000 worth of kit they're giving us. And that, I think, is going to make a difference for the short term, maybe even the medium term, where events are going to be hard to run. So that's interesting. I'm looking at combining kitchens so that when we do open, I can put our NEPA kitchen into our in-room dining and our first floor kitchen. So then I can do Deliveroo and I can create that. Now, that's something that our chefs haven't had to do. They've all been separate. Fine, think differently, boys. If I can run it out of one kitchen, I don't have to add the marginal cost of adding a second kitchen and keeping people on furlough, because otherwise it's going to cost me. Then we can get that additional cost. So just got to think differently and think smartly. One of my outlets that goes out to a street, I'm looking at just doing a straight takeaway, straight into the park, and just change it. We probably won't open it as a restaurant. It was really hard to break it even anyway, when you could do full service. To put in social distancing, I'm only going to do half the numbers. I can't. There's no way I can make money. So I'm best off turning it into a takeaway outlet and shifting it. If we all think differently, all think creatively, keep our heads and work out your base costs and what you need to break even and turn on, there's a chance we'll get out of there. If we're going to be stubborn and not think clearly, then I'm not saying we deserve to fail, but we're not taking all the opportunities that are available. In crisis comes opportunity, and you've got to be in the right frame of mind to find the opportunity and do something with it. And then don't underestimate your workforce. They are not stupid. They understand everything that's going on. They want to be part of the solution. Bring them around the table, talk about what they can do, talk about how we can do it and the restrictions that you're under in terms of cash flow. They'll get it, and then work on it together. And then I think we can, I'm going to say eternal optimist. We'll come out of it tighter, we'll come out of it better and stronger and probably more resilient. And with a different set of profit levels and a different set of business models than what we had before. And hopefully we'll look back on this and think, Christ, that was a seismic shift. But now look what we've got.
I love that. Are you enjoying this period of enforced creativity?
Enjoying is not the right word, because I know there's people that are behind every bloody decision I make. So not enjoying. I find it challenging. I find it really, really quite varied. Sometimes I can be massively positive, thinking, okay, there's a glimmer of light. Let's follow that. What can we do with that? Like the production studio, I'm bloody delighted with it. But then the next day, you've just read a whole load of gumph that just throws you into a black hole, thinking, Christ, when do I open? I can't bloody open. There's going to be only domestic business. Squillions of hotels think they're opening in July, and all of them reckon they're going to do about 20-30% occupancy. God love central London. It doesn't have that much domestic business to keep those hotels afloat. So, I think expectations are all over the place. And somewhere in the middle of it all, there is reality. The border controls that the quarantining that the government are putting on now is an absolute kiss of death. Why they're doing it now when they didn't do it at the start, God only knows. If they keep that stuff on when they open us up, it's like, my God, we can't, So I find it's a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. But you've got to center yourself, you've got to balance, talk to other people, find someone else to get you on the straight and narrow so you can think creatively. Because as leaders of business, people are looking to us to lead effectively. And if we're chopping and changing in an emotional roller coaster, how can you lead 300 people? How can I look after the livelihoods and the well-being of the team that are trusting me to do the best I can? So it's not an enjoyable place. But it's a place that I'm determined to use the time well to do the best I can. And I hope to God that the government continue giving us every bloody lifeline known to man. I hope to God our owners continue being patient with us and look to their own resources so they can keep bailing us out if they need to. And I look to the public and our industry to use the time well, to be so bloody creative, to create the demand to get people back in through our doors and spending their money.
Well, that seems like good advice. Do you know when you're going to reopen?
I'm thinking August. I think July with government keeping the furlough open till at 80% and all the rest of it. There's no business model on earth that will make me open in July. particularly with the quarantine measures on. August, there's a chance. I think there's a case of being in when everybody else is open. If not August, if I can't, depending on what happens, I haven't quite set a date yet. Definitely September, because I've still got this corporate business with this production studio. The demand for that, I think, is going to mean that we need to be open in August, ready for a September something. The business that I've had in is moved and changed. But by having the opportunity of doing the virtual and actual reality, it's given our clients say, oh my God, I could do it. I need to do it. I can do it. Right, let's work that out. And we're being so flexible with our clients, saying, okay, listen, let's just make it work. So I anticipate that September, October, I won't have the business I wanted, but I should have something, and we'll be offering a service to clients that need to communicate with their wider workforce. So
okay, well, I think people are being more understanding and more patient. I think we can't do more than that, really, is it? And say, look, we're all affected by this. It's a new world for all of us. We'll work with you. We'll be flexible. We'll try and navigate a way through. But I'm very conscious of time, so thank you so much for being so open and for chatting. I'm sure lots of people will find that exceptionally useful. If people want to follow your journey, are you particularly active on any particular social media channel, either personally or as a business?
The team, I'm not Miss Brilliant. My daughter helps me run an Instagram account. I'm probably most active on LinkedIn, but it's only when I can turn my head to it. So my team do Facebook. We've got a closed Facebook account for everybody on the team. And then obviously we're out there with Twitter as well. But me personally, I'm not the best social media buddy known to man. Probably LinkedIn is my most active.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'll put some links up on the website to some of the company ones and perhaps yours as well. And enjoy your daughter's birthday tomorrow. That's exciting. 18, big change.
Yeah, 18. Obviously, it's going to be a lockdown 18th. So, but my husband, myself, and our other daughter, we've got lots of little plans and exciting things to surprise her with. So yeah, I think we'll have fun. And then over the family, hopefully the weather's going to stay clear, and then my mum and sister and some other friends can come and do the socially distanced garden thing over the weekend, and if we can have some more visitors. So it'll be fun.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, it'll be memorable for different reasons, I'm sure. So yeah, good luck, and we'll keep in touch, and I'll try and pop in. And if you're ever back in your old stomping ground of Bournemouth, then come down for a glass of wine on the beach. But thank you so much for spending the time today.
Thank you very much, Mark. I'd love to do that.
A huge thank you to Sally for being so candid and honest about the difficulties of making complex decisions that have an impact on the lives of so many of her team. These human decisions can be tough to make in a business-focused world, but we should never forget that we are humans first and businesses second. Sally is walking that tightrope with her head held high, and her team are clearly appreciating her dedication to trying to support them. As always, please do scroll down on your phone right now, or whatever device you're listening on, and hit the subscribe button and the 5 stars next to the reviews. Just those few seconds of your day really help me out, and hopefully a good value in return for great conversations. This episode was released on Tuesday the 16th of June, and I will have another episode for you revisiting Griff Holland from Frisker Food in Bristol this Saturday, the 20th of June. Thank you.